Welcome back to the second hour of Out Chicago. Scott up here along with Ella Miller.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, just trucking along here. Snowy day. It's kind of lovely.
It is.
We got a great second hour lined up for you today. We're going, we like to be artsy fartsy. Usually we're a little bit more fartsy. Today we're going to be a little bit.
Yourself.
Well, we are.
Yeah.
We're fartsy, but we are going to be talking with some artsy folks a little bit later on this hour. We're going to be speaking with director Stephen Shellhart, who is helming the new production of Fun Home. That's going to be with Porchlight Music Theater. Love that show. Alison Bechtel, so queer. It's so great.
It's a great show.
All of the feels.
All of them.
Excited about that. And I'm also very, very, very excited about our first guest on this lovely show. Michael Shayan is a queer Iranian American writer and performer, an Emmy Award nominee, and an Out Magazine Out 100 honoree. In Avaz, he plays the role of his own larger-than-life mother, Roya, who welcomes audiences into her home to celebrate the Iranian New Year and shares her quintessential American journey from Tehran to Tehrangeles, California. And joining us now is Michael Shayan. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I'm at brunch with my gay best friend.
Well,
right.
you should be.
That's
You
how
should
you
be.
should feel.
First of all, how are you doing? How are you holding up?
I am doing okay. I'm in LA,
Yes.
it's been a challenging couple of days for everybody here, and it's been really quite devastating. But I'm also amidst the sort of chaos of it all. Just like I'm finding a lot of hope in community coming together, and there's a lot of strength and love being shared here, and just trying to do our best to bring that into the world.
Yeah. Well, this has got to be like a very interesting time to do a show that is about your mom, and then about Los Angeles as well. How did the show come about?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'll talk about the parallel because that's also been something that we've talked about in the last couple of days. So, I grew up in LA in what I call Tehrangeles, formerly known as Westwood, next to the kebab shop you love. And I actually started out as a magician. I grew up doing magic.
What?
I was an only child.
But there we go. Great.
you had to amuse
Wait,
yourself.
talk to me
Very
about
nice.
this. Did you perform for like family and friends and parties?
I performed all over. I was big on the bar mitzvah circuit.
Love it.
I was doing it all over. I had a magic company, and I don't know if you know the Magic Castle, which is
Yes,
it's a
very
historic
famous
place here in
historic,
LA.
magic, club in LA, sure.
Yeah, and it's where magicians go to train and perform and study and learn the art of magic, and then they have a number of theaters and rooms that folks can go to. And so I joined the Magic Castle when I was 12, so it was a crazy story. But I joined when I was 12, and I started performing there. I did brunch shows every week, and that was really my training ground for the theater. It kind of set the stage, literally, for a life in theater, because it's so theatrical and so fabulous and so fun, and you're also learning about character, and you're learning about about sort of creating a world on stage. And so I, many years later, I started writing plays, and that gave me a container to really think about my identity and my queerness, and to do that in a sort of deeper way. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of my background as a performer, and then I wanted to really think about my relationship with my mother. We had a very complicated relationship. We were just coming from different worlds. She had come from Iran in the 80s, and, right after the revolution, the Iranian Revolution. And we were just coming from different perspectives and languages and attitudes, and we just didn't really see eye to eye. And so I interviewed my mother. She never really talked about Iran for my whole, as I was growing up, never really talked about it at all. I interviewed her, and I think that interview really opened something for her because she could talk about things that she'd never really talked about and that we never had the occasion to talk about. It just kind of like the formality of it also just opened it up, gave her a floor for it. And that was really the germ that sort of started this play. And
so
I can talk more about
did you have this play like in the back of your head, like, I really want to write this show? Or was it just like, hey mom, let's sit down and formally, like, for another project, like let's talk about Iran? Or like, was this show, like you portraying your mother, was that always in the back of your head? Oh, okay, cool.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, look, my mother is a fabulous, larger-than-life, incredibly vibrant person. And she's super funny, and every other line's a joke, with her. And I was like, I just kind of realized that there were things about her past that I had no window into and no idea about. And so I was like, let's just set a time. Let's set a recorder down. I just want to ask you a couple of questions. And it was incredibly awkward because it was the first time I think both of us were coming to this very vulnerable. And, she was trying to like joke her way out of that. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting too. And then we got to some real, truth about our relationship, about her past, about her history. And that's when it really came to me, like the way to understand my mother would be to really put myself in her shoes, and what better way than to do that with the theater? Yeah. And so, part of the journey of the play is like, she is hosting you. So she's hosting you for this fabulous kind of larger than life party in the theater. You walk in and you're instantly like transported into this space, and
the images that I've seen are just outstanding. I'm like, oh, I want to be there. I want to be a part of that. Like, it just looks so gorgeous and inviting. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I got very excited.
No, please. Oh, you'll be there, baby.
I will be there. I know.
That's great. So yeah, the set, it's the Persian New Year. So we're bringing you into the ritual of this new year. And, people really are like dancing in their seats before the show even starts. And it feels like a party. And then as she's hosting this party and sort of entertaining her guests, she comes face to face with these ghosts from her past. And sort of has to come to terms with that.
So what's your mom's reaction now that is fully formed to the production? How is she looking at it? How does she feel about it?
At first she was like, well, why you want to write a play about me? What there is to write. And now she's like, so when are we doing my play?
See,
your play now.
I kind of felt it would go that way. Your mom sounds.
She's like, I take 10%, baby. I'm like, okay, she's taking 10%. Everyone's an agent now.
Yeah, of course. I'm of Greek descent, and your mom sounds a lot like my mom, and that would be the exact same thing. She'd be skeptical in the beginning, and then when it fully formed, she'd be all in and wanting more. So I'm so happy that she's.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
we're actually going to hit 100 shows in Chicago, which I'm really excited about. And what's crazy about the show to me, and what's so not crazy, but it's really exciting and touching, is the people that come up to me after, and from all different backgrounds, and they're like, that's my mom, that is my mother. That's my relationship with my mom. And people from all different, I'm telling my particular story, but it's kind of that idea that like in the personal, you find the universal. And, they've written actually stories about the play, about how the people come back a number of times. It's a crazy thing. I've never really experienced it with a play. Like, people come back again and again. They bring, mothers will bring their kids will bring their moms, families will, like, we were just in Denver. We're on tour. We're a national tour, and we've had amazing, like, sold out runs, and we broke records and all this. But what's crazy is like this one woman in particular, she had seen the show 3 or 4 times, and the last time she came towards closing. She brought 20 people from her family and friends.
What?
And she was like, she was like, I didn't know her at all, and she was like, I this is my story, and I wanted my friends to know my story.
Oh,
like
wow.
that's how much I relate to this.
Talk about
So-
universal. Yeah, that says it
Yeah.
right there. Wow.
But how does that make you feel, like as a creator? You know, as somebody, as an artist, as somebody who makes things, and like as you said, taking something that's very specific and very personal and finding that lightning in a bottle where it becomes universal. How does that make you feel?
I mean, I feel like for me, theater and making art, I know this language might sound a little sort of abstract, but I do feel like I'm kind of channeling the play. I'm channeling my mother. You know, I am. One of the first things I did was to write this. Was a playwriting teacher at this retreat that I was at for Lambda Literary, amazing organization, that said, "Put your hand over your heart and feel the heartbeat of a character." And I did that. And he said, just listen to what the character says. And I felt the presence of my mother. And after that interview, the play sort of poured out of me. And, you know, I think my job is just to tell my story as honestly and accurately as I can. And in doing that, I mean, it's amazing to see how people connect with it. And also, look, I think people we want to laugh and we want to have a great time. And like, you know, she is dealing with hard truths in the play, but you know, what I hope people take from it is the joy and the reinvention. You know, what we were talking about with these horrible fires is like, she was talking with me about how, when she left her country, you know, her father, you know, her family basically said, on a dime, we have to leave tomorrow. We're packing everything. We're going. And, you know, that was kind of life for several years, you know, moving from place to place, getting out of Iran. And so she was just drawing the parallel, and like, this is a story of reinvention. You know, this is a story of resilience. And I think it's the joy that really shines through in her story, and hopefully in this play. Wow.
Yeah. I can only imagine. You know, it strikes me because, you know, we're going to be speaking with the director of Fun Home, and it seems to me there's a little bit of parallels between these shows in terms of an adult child looking back at their parent and gaining a better understanding, and I guess maybe even like shattering a little bit of that parentalness, and the humanity comes out.
True. Yeah.
Did you find that, like, as you were, you know, conducting these interviews and creating the play, where you're like, oh yeah, my mom is a person, you know, like that weird moment where I think if you're fortunate, you have that moment, and when you really understand, like, oh, my parents were just people and doing what they had to do.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think definitely, you know, for me, it was like I just like, I had to sort of grapple with what my mother went through, and how she, you know, at age 20, basically escaped her country, came to Los Angeles. You know, she wanted to get an education, so she was the first of her family to leave, and like, I was like thinking, like, how, you know, if I had to do something similar, how would I sort of move through that? And just the impossibility of her life really sort of took me by not by surprise. I mean, I knew that she was a resilient person, but it just moved me, and you know, to think about putting this story, like, I'm part of my experience with this play is I'm putting her story into my body, you know, and I'm literally embodying it, you know. And so what does it look like to do that through these lenses of like body and gender and sex, sexuality, and all these different sort of lenses, right? To think about her story from my vantage point, and also to, like, you know, I think mothers and sons, right? It's like it's
a thing.
Yeah,
it's a thing.
It's a thing. There's the quote. There's the full quote for this. It's a thing. We're gonna put that on the poster.
There we are, mothers and fathers.
sons.
It's a
a
thing.
Oh, it is a thing. As someone that has two
I
brothers,
want my
I
10%.
can
I
tell
want
you.
my 10% now.
You got it. Yeah, talk to my mother. She's my agent.
Yeah.
Listen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So yeah, I'm sorry. But, I love how like in your bio you describe yourself as a maximalist, and it's clear that like your mom was the nurturer of that. What exactly do you mean by a maximalist?
Yes. Well, I think my mother is also probably a maximalist, and Persian culture. Like part of what I wanted to do with this is really bring folks into a culture that they may not be familiar with, and certainly have very rarely, if at all, seen on stage. It is like, again, when you walk into the theater, like you're walking into her home, and there's like, the set was designed by Beowulf Barrett, amazing. I mean, he's won like every other Tony, it feels like, Tony Award. And he had never done an Iranian show, and he said to me, I said, well, Beowulf, I'm so excited to be working together, and what are you thinking? I mean, I know you're not Iranian. And he's like, listen, how many chandeliers do you want? I'm like, 9. He's like, great. So,
Yeah.
that's like one level of the maximalism, I think, of the show. But it's also just like, it's the larger than lifeness, like we are consummate hosts. And, even like when I was doing magic, when I was a kid growing up, like it was always about checking in with our guests and putting on a show. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of my work actually has to do with what's behind the curtain, what's behind the larger than lifeness. And I think it's a really great tension, because in the play, what I do is like, I love that. I love the comedy of the play, and I think of the play very much as a comedy, even though it's dealing with big sort of questions about identity. I put the biggest laughs right before the biggest gut punch, or vice versa,
As
right?
you should, yes.
It kind of opens you up in this different way in the theater. You're like, oh, makes you question, like, I'm with this person, I'm with this character, and like, oh my God, that's so funny. And then, oh wait, that's an uncomfortable truth that she just said about her life, So yeah, and then in my personal life, I think just like bright colors, bold patterns,
Yeah, muchness. Take up space.
Muchness,
That's what I say.
Muchness.
Take up space. Before I let you go, I do have to ask, what does Avaz mean?
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, Avaz is it's a word. It's an untranslatable word.
Okay.
And it means it literally translates to like voice or song, but the translation that I love is it's a song as it's being sung. So it's a song in motion. We have different words for song in Persian in our language, and this is what came to me with the play was like her. This is a song in motion. My mother is in many ways still singing her song. She completely reinvented herself. She completely created this incredible life in LA, and it's very much in motion, in process, and so is our relationship. Our relationship has completely changed from when I first, from when I first started writing the play to understand her and to understand us, to now. I mean, it's like night and day. And just to touch on your earlier question, like it does feel like kind of an amends to my mother. It's a love letter, not only to my mother, but to mothers
everywhere.
Sons, like trying to think about like, both just what it means to inhabit a mother-son relationship and dynamic. What's my part, and to see things from a different angle, which again I think is like what people hopefully and have connected with Avaz. So
the title sounds
that's been
perfect.
amazing.
for what you're presenting. It really is.
Yeah, I love the idea of a song being
Yes.
sung, like active, like this.
Yes.
It is continuous, it is active, it is moving forward. And mothers and sons, it's a thing.
It's
a thing.
It's a thing.
And mothers and gay sons.
And mothers and gay
is
sons,
a real thing.
it's a thing. It is a thing.
Mothers and gay sons, totally. And you'll hear in the play, just lastly, I'll say, like, she is, I wanted to turn a lot of the stereotypes and ideas that people have about Persians and our culture on their head. And you come in and she's like, she, in the first couple of minutes, she's like, I'm the queen of gays,
Right.
And she goes on, there's a whole bit about how, when we talk about maximalism, I mean, talk about an overlap. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a thing. Yeah,
that is a
totally.
thing, and I cannot wait to go see this thing of Oz, written and performed by Michael
Exactly.
Shayan. Is going to be runs January 21st through February 9th at Chicago Shakespeare. For tickets, and you will not want to miss this one. A celebration and the joy that it sounds like it's coming across. I am so excited for this. For tickets, go to chicagoshakes.com. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Michael.
Much love
Break legs.
to your loved ones and family that are out in Los Angeles right now.
Yes.
And may the story continue to be one of being actively sung and a story of resilience. So thank you for joining us today, and we cannot wait to see you here in Chicago.
Thank you so much. See you at Chicago Shakespeare, everybody.
See you there.
Come on.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
It's a thing.
It's a
Bye-bye.
thing.